Can you imagine a world without smartphones, electric vehicles, or the latest advancements in medicine? Behind all these essential technology, there is an unnoticed but vital resource: rare earth elements. Although the name might sound like fantasy, these 17 chemical elements that we will look at today are essential for the functioning of nearly all the devices we use every day. However, their extraction is complex, and in the hands of a single country, it has become a geopolitical weapon. Did you know that China controls around 80% of global production? Today, we will go over why this sector is crucial for our technological future, and more importantly, how you can invest in it before the opportunity disappears. And as always, before we get started, I just want to mention that I'm not a professional financial advisor. My aim is to share data-backed analysis to help you make informed decisions. But this is just an opinion, and I encourage you to do your own research before investing. If you enjoy this type of content, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, give the video a like, and check the description below for a link to our weekly newsletter. So, what are the rare earth elements? Lanthanum, cerium, neodymium. No, they aren't spells from Harry Potter. These are some of the 17 chemical elements that make up a series of materials we know as rare earth elements. And despite their name, they aren't actually that rare in the Earth's crust. The problem, and the reason they are called rare, is that they are often found dispersed and mixed with other minerals, which makes their extraction expensive and complex. So, why are they important? Well, essentially because of their magnetic, electronic, and corrosion-resistant properties. This makes them essential for common products like electric vehicle motors, wind turbines, electronic devices, defense systems, and even high-definition screens and LED lights. In other words, nearly every electronic gadget we use. Quite impressive, isn't it? And of course, given the growing demand in the technology and energy sectors, rare earth elements have become a strategic asset, offering major investment opportunities. Now, what's the big issue with rare earth elements? Essentially, it's economical. As we've discussed, rare earths are distributed around the world, and extracting and processing them is neither simple nor cheap. It requires substantial investment in infrastructure, technology, and specialized labor. And China, in the mid-1980s, was one of the first countries to understand the strategic value of these elements, and as a result, focused on developing the entire production and refinement chain. As a result, today, the Asian giant controls around 80% of global rare earth element production. This gives them control over a vital resource for the technological and energy industries across much of the world. China's privileged position in the global market is further strengthened by its economies of scale in this sector. Having started early and with consistent investment, it has developed a highly efficient value chain for the extraction and refinement of rare earth elements. This makes starting new projects, which are capital intensive, at least economically questionable. And of course, if we add the current geopolitical context, which is increasingly oriented towards the formation of economic blocs, the dependence on Chinese rare earth elements poses a risk for many countries. For example, trade frictions, including possible tariffs of up to 100% currently being discussed during the Trump administration, could drive up the cost or restrict access to these critical materials, destabilizing sectors like electronics, electric vehicle manufacturing, and the military industry. Alright, so if rare earth elements are so essential for the technological and military industries, isn't Western production being subsidized? Well, as is often the case, it's a mix of good and bad. The US gets to work. On one hand, the United States has, for many years, practically ignored its rare earth element production, even abandoning some mines. The environmental cost was high, and China was competing with very low prices. But with Trump's second term and his climate emergency agenda, this seems to be changing drastically, with efforts to revive the sector and subsidize its extraction. In fact, I'm sure you've heard about his most eye-catching proposal, the famous idea of buying Greenland from Denmark. Although it may seem like another Trump-made madness, it turns out that Greenland holds 43 of the 50 materials that the US government considers essential for its industry. And when it comes to rare earths, 2% of global reserves are there, although recent prospecting points to a range of between 15 and 25% of these reserves being under the rough ice. So you see, maybe it wasn't such a mad idea. Of course, for such an idea to develop, it would likely take years, but it's a start. And in the meantime, what's being done this side of the pond? Well, the usual. Some feasibility reports, action plans, and not much more. Lots of talk, but few minds. As often happens, in Europe, we're more focused on regulating environmental impact than on achieving energy sovereignty. In fact, the UK provides a very telling example. Did you know that the UK is home to some of the most valuable and strategic mineral deposits in Europe? Yeah, that's right. The idea that the UK has no natural resources is simply false. What it lacks is the will to exploit them. Let me explain. The UK has significant reserves of materials like lithium and Cornwall, which is estimated to have the potential to supply a significant portion of the EU's lithium demand, especially as the shift toward electric vehicles grows. Moreover, the UK is also home to rare earth elements like tungsten in the southwest and tin in Devon. Interestingly, the UK is one of the few European countries with rare earth elements, yet it imports nearly all of its supply from China, which controls around 80% of global production anyway. But despite this, many of these projects have faced opposition and delays, especially due to environmental concerns and regulatory hurdles. It's nothing new. This resistance to extracting domestic resources is something we've seen before. For example, the debate over fracking in the UK has been a long-running issue, with local opposition and legal challenges stalling efforts to tap into potential gas reserves. So here we are. While some countries are moving to secure their resources, others remain in a state of indecision, paralysed by regulatory challenges and public resistance. But let's get to what interests us. If there's so much concern about the scarcity of these critical minerals and that China can turn off the tap at will, especially in a trade war scenario, maybe investing in companies or funds dedicated to securing these resources isn't such a bad idea. So how can you invest in rare earths? Is it possible? Yes, but with a catch. The truth is, there are only 3 companies in the world that focus on their extraction and processing as a core part of their business. The Chinese company, China Northern Rare Earth Group with ticker 600,011 SH, the only US-based MP Materials with ticker MP, and an Australian company called Linas Corp with ticker LYCAX. Before we move on to the next company, let me remind you that we've left a link in the description video below to brokers with very competitive fees, where you can find both MP Materials and the Australian company. If you're looking for exposure to this niche market rather than choosing individual companies, I suggest something more interesting. Looking for an ETF that tracks the sector's performance. Today, I'm introducing the Van Eck Rare Earth and Strategic Metals UCITS ETF, the only UCITS listed ETF that tracks the MVIS Global Rare Earth and Strategic Metals Index. This index includes the largest and most liquid companies in the rare earth and strategic metals sector. This ETF has an annual total expense ratio of 0.59%. which makes it quite competitive in such a specialized sector. Moreover, it follows a physical replication strategy, meaning it directly buys the shares in the index, and the dividends generated by these shares are reinvested in the fund itself, allowing investors to benefit from long-term compounded growth. And of course, it includes the companies we've mentioned earlier, with a 17% weight in the ETF. The remaining components may be related to rare earths, but it's not always their core business. In conclusion, rare earths are crucial for our immediate technological future, and it's hard to imagine a revolution in artificial intelligence or defense systems without these materials, all while China controls much of its production. But what do you think? Do you think they represent a good investment niche? Or would you suggest other companies that we've overlooked? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, if you found this content useful, give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell to make sure you don't miss any new videos. Thanks for staying till the end, and we'll see you in the next video.